Hello, friend, and welcome back to our monthly mindful check-in here at Torches. If you are new to these, this is our moment each month where we slow down for just a few minutes and look at what the next stretch of time might be inviting from us. Not in a pressure kind of way, more like noticing the direction the wind is blowing so we can move with it instead of against it. And April has a really beautiful tone to it. The theme I keep feeling with this month is how we relate, nourish, and support ourself. And when I say self with a capital S, I'm not talking about our roles or our past experiences or the version of us that learned how to perform for the world. I mean the awareness underneath all of that, the part of us that is simply conscious, present, and observing. So, throughout April, we are going to be exploring what it looks like to reconnect with that deeper self and step a little bit more into who we actually are, not just who we were told to be. On the Torches calendar this month, we'll be talking about that a lot. I have a guided meditation coming on the 20th to help you reconnect with your younger self, and another one on the 27th that supports you in the process of becoming who you are. We are also going to talk about who we were told to be versus who we actually are, and the idea that we are not fixed and stagnant in one set self. The month itself carries the energy of air, movement, breath, thought, and wind. And I love using the elements as a simple mindfulness anchor because they're always available to us. So, a small practice you might try this month is to just notice the wind when it shows up. When you step outside, notice how it feels on your skin or moving through your hair. If you have wind chimes nearby, pause for a moment to savor and listen to their sound instead of rushing right past it. Or spend a few moments just to watch the birds moving through the air. Air reminds us that life is constantly moving and adjusting, and we can soften into that moment instead of gripping everything so tightly. April also carries some beautiful symbolic correspondences, like the birthstone that is the diamond. The diamond is said to represent strength, purity, fearlessness, and eternity. April has two flowers of the month, the daisy and the sweet pea. Daisies symbolize innocence, true love, and new beginnings, and sweet peas represent gratitude, blissful pleasure, and lasting friendship. And if you think about it, those themes actually fit really well with what this month is asking from us. A little bit of renewal, a little bit of softness, and of course, appreciation for relationships we have with others and ourselves. Now, by the time this video goes out, we are actually already just past the first full moon of spring that happened on April 2nd, and that moment always carries this feeling of renewal and blooming. But one perspective shift I really like here is the idea that growth doesn't always require us to completely change who we are. Sometimes blooming just means becoming more of ourselves where we already are. We don't have to uproot our entire lives to grow. Sometimes it's just about adjusting how we're showing up inside our lives. But 2 weeks after that full moon, on the 16th, we get a reset energy with the first new moon of spring. This time invites us to listen more than we act, feel before we decide, and align before initiating. A wonderful mindful practice we can do on this month's new moon is one that combines a few of my favorites, journaling and grounding. For this practice, you don't need anything dramatic, just a journal, a pen, and a quiet moment. If you would like to add some extra dazzle, maybe bring in a bouquet of daisies and sweet peas, maybe a white candle and a clear quartz stone. As you start out in your journal, clear your mind by writing out what comes to mind from the past day or week, and just let that settle with some space between you and those experiences. Then, write one question or intention you've been holding, maybe a direction you're considering, or a change you're thinking about, or something you're unsure of. And don't edit it or try to organize it. Just let it move from your mind and onto the page. If nothing comes to mind, try writing and pondering on what bold beginning am I ready to claim. Don't rush to write it out, an answer, or a plan, but instead write the question or write your statement and put the pen down for a moment. Take a deep breath and place one hand on your chest and one hand on your abdomen. Connect to your body. Let that question resonate through you and notice if there are any sensations that come with it. As you're ready, come back to your journal and start writing what you noticed. This new moon is a perfect time for this reflection because the energy through the middle and the later part of April tends to move in waves that encourage a few things. We may notice areas of life starting to move forward again, especially around relationships, our values, or finances. Some people feel a sense of responsibility or their purpose becoming more clear. During April, communication energy can pick up too, which means our words carry a little more power. They can build connection or they can create friction depending on how we use them. But one of the most important shifts that happens towards the end of April is a slowing down, like a moment of grounding, steady building instead of rushing, which honestly pairs perfectly with what we practiced in March when we were working with our discernment. We asked ourselves what we actually want to plant and nourish this season in our lives. April becomes the month where we start tending to those things, not forcing growth, not rushing, just supporting it. Remember, be patient. You can't rush real growth. This reminder always makes me think of the parable of the butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. If you've ever watched this happen, you'll notice it doesn't look easy. There's effort and there's struggle. And sometimes when people see a butterfly coming out of their cocoon, that instinct is to help. You might think, I could gently open the cocoon and make it easier. That's so sweet, but so wrong. If we did that, if a butterfly actually got help coming out of its cocoon, it would actually harm it. The struggle is what strengthens its wings and prepares its body for flight. Without that process, that struggle, the wings would stay weak and the body can actually swell up, and the butterfly may never be able to fly at all. So the struggle isn't the problem, it's a part of the transformation. And I think that's a really important reminder for us this month. Sometimes the most helpful support isn't stepping in to fix everything. Sometimes it's encouragement, patience, and presence. All right, if you are looking for some fun ways to sprinkle mindfulness into your April, make sure to check out daysoftheyear.com for a complete list. Not affiliated, but I did pick out a couple of my favorites. Since we're checking in a little later than usual this month, we are going to jump to April 10th, even though April Fool's Day is probably one of my favorite days of the year. What a great excuse to have a little juvenile fun. I like pranking, but only the inconveniences, nothing like major. But anyway, April 10th is Erase Self-Negativity Day. Absolutely, we are doing this. I love this one, and then it connects directly to something we've talked about before. Research shows that our minds wander 40% of the time, and another study shows that roughly 80% of our thoughts tend to lean negative, which is wild when you think about it. Sometimes, though, negative thoughts disguise themselves as motivation and self discipline. They sound like we are pushing ourselves and improving ourselves, but they're really just repeating criticisms we've practiced saying to ourselves for years. This is where thought labeling becomes a really powerful mindfulness practice. When you notice a negative self thought, instead of arguing with it or spiraling into it, you simply label it. That's judgment. That's worry. That's self criticism. That small act of labeling interrupts the pattern and brings our prefrontal cortex back online. And over time, it actually helps create a new neural pathways in the brain that reduce how often we fall into those spirals and how long we stay stuck in them. All right, moving on, we come to April 17th for National Bat Appreciation Day. And I have to talk about this one because I love bats, especially here in Florida. Any animal eating up to 1,000 mosquitoes an hour is immediately on my favorite creature list. Bats get a bad reputation, and kind of like a lot of things, I blame Hollywood on that. But they're incredibly important to our ecosystems. They can navigate in the dark using echolocation, which is basically sound mapping their environment. They're also the only they're also the only mammal capable of flight. And you may think of like sugar gliders, but they aren't actually flying. As Woody from Toy Story would say, they're just falling with style. And something a lot of people don't realize is that bats are pollinators too. They're out there helping the bees. There are over 1,200 known species of bats, and one of my favorites is the giant golden-crowned flying fox. Look at this adorable little guy, like a little fox wearing a cloak. This particular species can get up to about 3 pounds, so it's kind of small, but their wingspan is an impressive 5 feet. A simple way to celebrate Bat Appreciation Day is just looking up what types of bats live in your area. It's a little fun curiosity moment and a way to reconnect with the environment around us. Next, we reach April 22nd, Earth Day. Last month, we did a 1 hour electronics pause, and this month, I thought we could expand on that idea in a full day of mindful energy use. Earth Day started small in the US in 1970, but by 1990 it became a global event. Now it's estimated that around 180 countries participate, with about 200 million people involved. So if this is your first time intentionally celebrating it, you're joining a pretty incredible collective effort. Some small ways to participate could be opening the curtains and using natural light during the day, taking a shorter shower, carpooling if possible, buying produce without the extra plastic packaging, using reusable bags when you're shopping, and recycling instead of tossing everything into the trash. And if you want to turn it into a mindful practice, you could go on your mindful walk that day and bring some gloves and a trash bag with you and pick up litter along the way. Just a simple act of care for the planet that supports our entire lives. All right, friend. In March, we used our discernment to determine what we really wanted to plant and nourish this season in our lives. April is a time for that forward motion, but not in a rushed pressure type of way. Just a slow tending and nurturing time. And maybe some things are starting to unfold. But remember, be patient with yourself and your journey. Like the butterfly, the obstacles and challenges we face are essential for building strength and resilience. Friend, thank you so much for joining me for this mindful monthly check-in. Make sure you check out my other video posted this week where we are talking about things I wish I knew in my 20s. In the meantime, friend, stay present, stay kind to yourself, and I will see you soon.